everyone. Today's meeting is open to the public and warm welcome to you all for attending. My name is Councillor Safiya Saeed and I am the chair of for the local area committee. We are trailing a new way of delivering our public meetings following feedback from residents. We recently held successful informant engagement events in the community. The next engagement event will be held on 12th of March. We are holding the democratic formalities of the agenda here in the town hall. Before I ask the other councillors to introduce themselves, I will hand over to Claire from Democratic Services to read out the housekeeping arrangements.
Thank you, Chair. Before we start, just a few housekeeping arrangements to mention. Please can I request that mobile telephones and other such equipment are switched to silent mode so to not disturb the conduct of the meeting. There's no fire test planned for today. If there is an emergency evacuation, please take instruction from the council staff present. The assembly point is Tudor Square. For ladies' toilet facilities, turn left out of this door, follow the corridor around, turning right at the T-junction. They are on the right of the corridor further up. The gents' facilities, turn right out of this door, then turn left and immediately next to the conference room there on your right-hand side. The meeting today is open to the public and will be streamed live and for subsequent broadcast via the council's website. You should be aware that the council is data controller under the Data Protection Act. Data collected during this webcast will be retained in accordance with the council's published policy. By entering the meeting room, you are consenting to be filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Claire. Can I ask a member of officers represent to introduce themselves?
Hi, good evening everybody. I'm Lindsey Hill. I'm the Community Services Manager for the like.
I'm Claire Cummins. I'm just taking the minutes tonight.
Helen Harris, here to manage the webcast tonight.
Can I also ask the members of the councillors to introduce themselves, please?
Oh, thank you, Chair. Councillor Mark Jones, Burngreave Ward.
Councillor Gareth Slater, Saudi Ward.
Fran Belbin, Councillor for Firth Park Ward.
Mark Russell, Councillor for Shire Green and Brightside.
Good afternoon, Abdul Qayyum, Councillor for Firth Park.
Before we proceed with the agenda, I would like to explain how the meeting will work. First, we will deal with the formal business of apologies, declaration, and minutes of last meeting. We will then move to the items of North East Local Area Committee Budget Report, which will be introduced by the Community Service Manager. There will then be an opportunity for discussion or debate, and members of the committee will be asked to agree for recommendation of the report. Finally, we will have public question and answer sessions. Item 2, apologies for absence. Over to Claire.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillors Talib Hussain, Mike Chaplin, Dawn Dale, Nikki Belfield.
Thank you. Item 3, exclusion of the public and press. There are no items that require the exclusion of the public press. Over to item 4, declaration of interest. Do any of the members wish to declare any interest in any of the items business on the agenda? Thank you. Item 5, minutes previous meeting. Members to approve as a correct record the minutes of the last meeting held on the 16th of January 2025. Can we get an approval? Good nods. Item number 6, North Local Area Committee Budget. Lindsey will now give us an update of the North East Local Area Committee budget. Over to Lindsey.
Thanks, Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'm here today to ask the committee to note the expenditure under delegated powers against the budget of 102,212. That's a mouthful. A total spend of this period since the last report in January is a sum of 32,497. The spend breakdown is in the report and listed. The remaining budget that's available is 36,724 following the full expenditure of this year in 24-25. It is proposed that the funds are used to fund projects to address like priorities, and in Appendix 8 details these proposals and the projects that would be funded, none of which are new and they've all been previously reported before. Thank you.
Members of the North East Local Area Committee are asked to 1. Note the expenditure under the delegated powers against the £1,002.212 budget to address the local priorities in the North East as details in the report. Is that noted? Thank you. Do we need to debate or anything? Do we need to debate or anything? No. Item number 7, public questions and petitions. No public questions or petitions have been submitted to us in advance of this meeting. I would now like to invite questions from the floor. When you ask your question, please please clearly state your name and the area you're from into the microphone. If we are unable to answer any questions tonight, we will provide a written response, in which case can you please leave us with your contact details. Thank you. Any public questions?
It's just on the table over.
Would you like anybody from the public have any questions or inquiries? At the moment. We'll take your question, Jane.
Thank you. I've been asked to ask this question and I have emailed it on to the light, but the member of the public's at work, so I said I would be their voice. We have a lot of problems with people parking on grass verges, and especially when the weather is like it is, extremely churned up, everything else. Now, the teams have been great and they have gone out and reseeded, yet 24 hours later somebody went and did exactly the same again. He wanted me to pass his thanks on to the teams and for us for being responsive. However, just wants to say that, you know, he really wants us to look at measures, and I know this may have to go to the committee, but how do we stop churning up and how do we make our areas look nicer when they're not allowed to put the posts in? These are sporadically all over the city. Some areas have them, some areas don't. Can we have a proper policy moving forward, and can we raise this? So he's asked me to ask this question, and I said I would do. He doesn't expect you to have an answer now, but we do have to look at this. If not, can we not remove the grass verges? I have explained about environmental and the reason why they're there, but when they are constantly looking a mess, they don't make an area look nice. And they're, you know, the area that he's on, it's very, very wide, so it is kind of in the middle. So I totally get it, but it's something I think that we need to look at when we want to see how nice our areas look. And I must admit, I do drive through other areas and do see lots of nice things on grass verges that are similar, that haven't been removed, so we need a consistent policy moving forward. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Yes, thank you.
Thanks. It's something that's constantly raised, certainly in Firth Park as well, where we've got lots of areas where parking on the verges is wrecking the verges. One thing that's quite often raised with me that I think it would be useful to add into this is that in parts of Shea Green, we have, I think, there's some kind of plastic mesh stuff that's put onto the verges so that as the grass can still grow through it, but it means the verges don't get churned up as much when people do park in them. And I appreciate some of our roads are so narrow that people do have to park on the verge in order to allow emergency vehicles and so on to get through. It'd be really useful to understand the costs of that so that we can look at possibly prioritising that in some of our wards in some areas where that's an issue. So I wonder if that's something that we could get a bit more information about what it costs and whether that does resolve the problem as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belbin. Councillor Witherall? Jones? The Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Gary. Hope I'm not jumped in front of you too much. There is a policy already existing within the waste and street scene environment for verge adoption. And there have been successful trials across the city where people have sought assistance in taking care of verges outside their own properties and dealing with some of this. I know that's not necessarily going to be appropriate in all cases, but certainly as part of that information sharing that we could get from that committee, we could get an officer to come in to say how they could support us across the LAC to maybe do that, and maybe as a LAC, as part of our environmental duties, we could look into how we can help people do that, because there's various different bits about planting, and I know that if people then can't look after those verges later on, it'll go back to the original format, but there is an existing policy in there, and there's budgets within the Waste and Street Scene Committee and support from Amy to actually facilitate that. So it would be really good if we got an officer to come to talk to us and maybe promote that across our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Witherall?
Thanks, Chair, and I do apologise for being late. I got stopped by the police. Everything's all right though. I didn't do anything wrong. Anyway, but we'll park that.
We could put that in the agenda if you want us to lengthen the meeting.
And it weren't my son either. Anyway, yes, as Councillor Fran Belbin's already said, that in Shaggy and Brightside we've had people parking on. Mark, myself and Dawn, we are working on for some bollards. But bollards, flipping it, those mushroom bollards, the concrete ones, are £45 each and about 100 quid to install them. I mean, lovely, they take the sump off, which that's what you want. But people say to me, Gary, why have I got to stop parking on verges? I said, well, just look at it outside every school you come across. I mean, south there, I come off Hugh Lane and onto Creswick. Somebody's put a bin there and 2 bollards and some bricks. I don't know where they came from, but before that, it's just soil all along. And every time I pass that area, I have to stop the car with my wife mourning in my ear roll. I take photos and I send them to an officer at repairs and maintenance, and it's our own vans. It's our own vans what's doing it. You know what I mean? They're chaining up the grass verges. They don't care. And I stopped one bloke one day, because he saw me taking photos. He said, what are you doing? I said, taking a photo, I'm going to send it to your boss. What for? Who are you? And I told him. He says, oh. I said, there is a policy, not to park on grass verges. Well, we have been told about it. I thought, well, here we go. But we have to walk around from there. And he says, yeah. I said, well, you've got a barrier in there, haven't you? Sack barrier, you can take it around, whatever you've got, if it's heavy. I mean, so if we can't even have his own transport fleet, not parking on grass verges, why are members of the public going to do it? You know what I mean? Because if you see housing cleaning people, they pull up grass verge. I mean, when I see gas or electric and they pull up in the on grass verges, or ambulance or police or fire, you go, they're doing the job. That's that's a lot of, have to lump it. But it's day in, day out, I'm taking photos. Now I've been told if I've got my wife in car, I can't pull up anymore. You know what I mean? Because she's fed up with it. But it is. So now I take them off the camcorder at night. I just put it in and I send it to officers. But all they come back and say, we've had a word with them, we send them letters. You know what I mean? So I think we need to sort our own house in order first. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, noted. Any more? Thank you. Councillor Roslin.
Thanks. It's just following on from Mark's point about Western Streets. He's absolutely right. And we've started a conversation around the type of people who are out and about in communities who can enforce the parking regulations. I know enforcement isn't the entirety of the answer to this, but it is part of the answer, I think. And at the moment, there are plenty of people from our agencies and from the council who are out and about in communities who can't do anything about this because they don't have the enforcement powers. And I think looking at that has got to be part of this. But I agree, it's got to be a bit of carrot and a bit of stick, hasn't it? And where it works in Shire Green, it works reasonably well. I know Shire Green has got a bit more space to park on the verges. It's not those narrow streets, but I think if we're looking at both angles, the carrot and the stick, then it's more likely to work.
Thank you. Anybody wants any further comments? Thank you.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it's all well and good at having the policies, but when we report, we don't get told that is available. So that is the issue, isn't it? It's kind of, it's great, but if it's a limited resource, where is it going to? Is it first come, first served? So I think we need, that's the bit that I'd like to feed back. So there is consistency, not just those who shout the loudest, do you know, which is often the case, you know, which is why, and this is not a council van, but you're absolutely right, you do see that. It is a neighbour, because he keeps sending it me. But, you know, I think if it was consistent, but that's part of the issue, isn't it? Completely. But thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Enforcement then. So for instance, you come up to the microphone, please.
Yeah, you've got to come to, can we have your name and what ward you're from, please? Thank you.
Yeah, Mark Harrop, Outerbridge. Basically, having a work van is a privilege. I think if people can't conform to some, you know, small-scale rules, then perhaps they need a bit of a warning, and if they keep doing it, then they'll have to commute into work in their own vehicle and pick the van up at, you know, work site. And then the other vans, I think that they need to have a warning, and then some enforcement action needs to be taken. You know, everybody else has to conform, so why don't they? But I do appreciate that a lot of contractors work in or live in these areas because they work in class areas. So it's quite difficult for them with the work vans because some of the work vans contain tools and everything else. So that's probably why there's a lot of issues. Cheers.
Thank you very much. I'll bring Gary Witherhold, if that's okay, and then Mark Jones. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. When I first came on council 20 odd years ago, John Barton, I know she won't mind mentioning this, it was going around then and 20 years before that. You know what I mean? So we've been here 50 years talking about the same thing on and on and on. And all I think we need is our parking enforcement to have a policy to, if you park on a grass verge in Sheffield, you're going to get a fine of £100, you know what I mean, straight away. You know what I mean, and that should be done, you know. And we don't need a parking enforcement chap or girl to go around physically sticking the things on. All we need is a camera, which they have got now. You know what I mean, they are driving around outside schools, especially schools at the moment, because they're purging down on that, you know, and then they send a letter 2 or 3 days later. So it can be done, you know what I mean? So I think we need to be looking at enforcement.
We'll take your question. Can I have your name and the ward you're from, please? Thank you.
I'm Matt Smith. I'm from Bromhill, but I'm just having a little look at these because obviously it's a new system and I think it's important. Yeah, with these verges, obviously the fact that people are parking on verges might suggest that the parking in the area is restricted or already quite kind of scarce, which is something to consider. But just as a suggestion, with the issue being about waterlogged verges as well being a particular issue with the churning up, maybe those verges could be used for things like bioretention or something to actually control runoff from the roads as a kind of stormwater management component to use that resource and do away with the grass that people can park on, but replace it with something that is an obstruction in itself, but is full of plants, even nicer to look at, but has a purpose with regards to stormwater as well, and managing flooding and flash flooding and things like that as well. Multi-use as part of my degree, that's why they're interesting.
So you're volunteering.
I'll get out, there we go. Oh no. Cool,
Thank you very much. Can I bring Councillor Jones in, please?
Thank you, Chair. The gentleman from Uterbridge raised the thing about work vehicles, and he's kind of right. We Thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. Technical issue. Microphone got bored of listening to me, I guess. Certainly the working vans is an issue, and we have brought in a policy of an enforceable policy about not parking in front of dropped curbs. So that may mean that some people are looking to park on verges because they feel that's a way of using the areas. The soft surfaces on those parked areas are very much about drainage. They are very much about retention of surface water. They're mostly raised, so they won't actually necessarily catch stuff running off the roads. They'll catch stuff running off the pavements. But as part of that, there is stuff we can do about making those verges still porous, so they can still act as floodwater sumps, but also making sure that they don't get churned up. I know that we've used scrapings off the roads in the past. It doesn't give you a particularly nice surface, but it does make it more resilient. There may be something that we can look to work with Amy on and making those surfaces more resilient, so that when people do park on them, they don't churn up quite so bad. As colleagues have mentioned already, there's the plastic meshes that can be added that give resilience. But also, if we can do stuff to help people adopt those areas, they can make them look a lot better, and they can then introduce the biodiversity that you've mentioned. Rewilding, the planting of seeds, we've done a lot. Mark Russlin will know about this now. Sheffield has its own seed mix, which has flowers in there that aren't going to burn you, aren't going to sting you, they are accessible, they aren't going to hurt your dogs as they're parking. But there is a lot of stuff we can do here, and there's a lot of stuff we need to be mindful of. What we don't want to be doing is penalising people because they're not parking in front of drop curbs and they're trying to just find somewhere to leave the vehicle. But yeah, there's certainly lots of things that we can do going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to come up to the mic, please? Thank you.
I was just going to add the option of aerating, where you can roll those spiked barrels almost over that can just put small holes in the surface to let the water drain. Don't really, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. Anybody else wants to raise a point? No? Thank you very much. Thank you for attending the meeting tonight. The next meeting of the North East Local Area Committee will be on Tuesday, 13th of May 2025 at the venue on the time to be confirmed. Thank you, everyone.